it seem like that, but we really did. We had bases loaded and one out, and we go strikeout, strikeout. And so you stopped it from becoming a balloon inning. And they gave us a few freebies. We have a couple singles, but they had a few by pitches and a few walks in there. And then we were able to, with 2 strikes, 2 or 3 or 4 hits with 2 strikes, we'd blow it open. And that was really what I saw in that inning was they weren't able to put guys away. And so maybe we didn't hit early in that count, but we were really tough with 2 strikes. And the team that can manage 2 strike at bats the best normally is going to come out on top. Right? Can you manage 2 strikes? Can you manage 2 outs? Can you just continue to prolong the at bat until you get something to hit, or there's a walk, or whatever it is? And that's what has been our calling card as an offense over the last couple of years. We've been fine at it. We've been fine, but we haven't been as stingy as typical. And today you could really see in that moment. I don't know if the top of that inning where it was like you guys get fired up, they're excited. It's like let's play winning baseball. And the reality is when you've won a lot of close games like we have here as of late, there begins to build a little bit of confidence, a little bit of belief. Okay, this is when we're really good. We're really good late. And so let's compete here. Let's keep moving it along, get to the next guy. And before you know it, you got 3 or 4 big two strike, 2 out hits, and you blow it wide open. And the guys did a nice job.
I would imagine Craig being able to get out of that top of the inning also inspires a lot of confidence.
It does, and that was good for him because Craig has been dominant in many ways. Craig's just it's kind of been clean innings, and Coach Glenn and I always kind of talk about that. He talked about it a ton. It's good to get those guys in the fray, and you gotta work your way through it. And so we didn't want to go get him. We had Crafty getting up, and everybody was up for 1 today. You probably could tell everybody was up for 1. So we knew we were going to throw Crafty, but it's like, man, if Craig could really buckle down here and pitch through it, struggle, and then finish strong, it's going to end up paying big dividends down the road when leadoff single in the 8th 1-run game. Can you manage this again? Have you been there before? And again, he's been pitching for less than a year. And so, as a coach, I don't want those things to happen, but he comes into a tough situation. He comes in first and second. Guy has a really nice swing. Their best guy hammers the ball to right field, and now he's in the middle of the thick of things. And he's just got to do it until he gets through it. And he did a really good job. He buckled down, landed a couple of change-ups. Okay, the breaking ball wasn't working today. Had a tough time controlling it, so he was able to land the change-up and then use the fastball. And he was throwing really hard. So once he found the off-speed pitch that he could use, which was the change-up today, then the fastball was able to really play out. We talk about that a lot. Not being a one-pitch guy, being able to be a 2 to 3 pitch guy, and all of a sudden the fastball jumps, and that's what happened. Where change-up land, and then it's 94, 95, and he was able to beat some bats late and get out of that.
Unfortunately, March Madness ended for both the men and women. While it's bad for them, and you obviously don't want that, you now become the main show in town for the athletic department. You see the media was bigger today, the crowd was bigger. Yeah. How excited are you, even though obviously you wanted the basketball team to go all the way, that you now become the focus of the main spring sport in the athletic department?
I would much rather the basketball teams play and we just kind of carry on the way that we have. Obviously it was growing up an Indiana kid and a huge Indiana fan, watching both the men's and women's success, especially the women's success this year, has been a ton of fun. And I've told this story a couple times. My mom played college sports, my wife played college sports, and so the Indiana women's basketball team has been the big thing at the Mercer house the last couple of months. And I know it was a tough ending last night, but what an incredible season, and we're just also very, very proud of them, and just to be associated with such a great program and the coaching staff and the players. So, you kind of get used to it when you're we play a summer sport in the winter, right? So it's like you're not used to getting a whole lot of folks until, no matter where you are, right? No matter where you are in the country, it was 30 degrees everywhere in the country this past week. So usually as the weather warms, you get more folks, and hopefully as it gives us time to get better before somebody comes and watches you put a bad product out there. So hopefully we play better and better as more people can enjoy and be proud of another Indiana program as they've had so many programs to be proud of and to really attach themselves to. Hopefully we can provide that as well.
And how important is it for you guys to tune up heading into conference play starting this weekend?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, Indiana State's a really high RPI program. They've played a great schedule. Mitch Hans is the best coach in the state. He is a terrific coach and a mentor to me. Brian Smiley, their assistant coach, there's nobody better. So, you know, when you go play against an Indiana State team, you know they're going to be talented, well coached, offensive, and they're all those things. And we were just able to get them on one inning. But yeah, it helps a ton to be able to play against good opponents. And then obviously you kind of start you go into the fray this weekend, right? We go into the fray, but having that, the way that we were able to compete the last few weeks and find ways to win, be tough, and then to find a way to blow that thing open late, you know, it bodes well. And then the whole thing starts back over again. And you start 0-0. You know, last year we didn't have the preseason that we wanted to, and I lined him up in the dugout and tore up the stats, and the record didn't really matter because the whole season begins anew. And I'll do the same thing. I'll do the same thing before we start this weekend, because everything you do before that is, it doesn't matter essentially outside of just the lessons that you learn along the way. And we'll start anew. And obviously Ohio State's played really well. They've got a great Friday guy, and you know, they hit 300 plus in conference last year, so they're going to have a good offense again. And their coaches are doing a great job, I'm sure. And be ready to go. It'll be a dogfight.
Take a couple more. Coach, you guys have played a great brand of ball here at home. What do you credit that to, and what does that mean for you guys as a team?
Well, I think we're being fortunate the way the schedule falls. Sometimes you're able to be home more than others. I think, again, when you're home, you're able to practice. So like today, you know, and by the way, I'll take as many as you want, so take as many as you want. But you know, today we're able to get out here at noon, so guys can come out to do early work. So you can make as many adjustments as you want in the course of the day before you play. So I think that's what really helps guys to play well at home. If you want to hit for 2 hours, you can hit for 2 hours. You're not hitting for 20 minutes, you know, before the game. I think that helps a ton. And guys know the field, right? They're confident in the field and the facility. When you're an outfielder and you know the field, and you know the warning track, you know the wall. You're an infielder, you know the bounces and the backdrop behind the pitcher. You're just comfortable in those surroundings. And baseball is such a unique sport where, you know, basketball, the gym may be different, but there's no wind, there's no rain unless you're playing on one of the battleships, right? In the preseason, no, but you don't deal with the elements. So the goal's 10 feet and everything's the same. You know, in a lot of sports, everything's the same. Baseball is impacted tremendously by the field, impacted tremendously by the weather. All those things have such a big impact. And when you're home, you're a lot more comfortable, and the guys are confident. And you're able to practice and really go into it well prepared.
You talked about the weather, and usually weather like there was today with a lot of rain, pitchers can struggle, but you guys staffed it today, and they seem like they did a pretty good job through that.
Yeah, the rain really didn't have an impact. You know, the one inning we didn't pitch it well. I would say it was, you know, whatever they did in their throwing program yesterday. Yesterday's an off day. Probably has a lot more to do with, you know, them not attacking as much today. But they did a really good job managing the rain. Crafty was really good. I mean, it was raining pretty good. Crafty was really good. Adrian Vega had probably his best outing of the year. It was 90, 91, maybe even 92. So it was really good to see him kind of turning it loose again. You know, he pitched against us last year when he was at Butler and kicked our butt, and it was pretty apparent he was a good arm. So it was good to see him out there today. So the rain didn't impact too much. I think, again, if you make it a thing, it's a thing. And I do know that, you know, the fly balls at the last inning, you get 2-3 fly balls. I mean, that's like, someone spraying the garden hose in your face and you're trying to catch a fly ball. It's kind of hard to do. So, you know, great outfield coach, Coach Rutherford, great outfield coach. You know, he probably learned from a great outfield coach, which is me. Yeah. I taught him a long time ago, but no, he did a really good job. Yeah, boys is good.
One more.
Early in the game, you had a lot of walks. Opening inning walks. And you did have Brayden Reisdorf walked one, but it didn't allow him to pitch from the stretch, which you had talked about earlier. And he seemed to maintain his velocity and got a strikeout at 92.
No, and that's exactly right. We talked about it last week, where just like with Craig today, you got it. Sometimes it's good when they get in the fray. I don't want to lead off walk. For some reason, we decided that we walked a 9-hole guy more than any team in the history of baseball, and that's frustrating. It's like he's hitting 9 for a reason, but we did, and we have. So you don't want him to do that, but looking at the big picture where you're going through 5 or 6 freshmen today again, they got to get out there and do it, and they got to go through it. And so, yes, I didn't want him to struggle last week, but because he struggled, now that stuff comes to light, the impurities come up, and then you're able to, hey man, like, we got to be better with that. Like, we shouldn't be, you know, last week he's 92, 96, and then we're 88 to 90, you know, as soon as the guy gets on base. So this week, again, just a great point. He's able to hold his velocity. He's better from the stretch. We can make an adjustment. And so you don't want him to struggle, but it's the fastest way to learn. And he made a good adjustment today and was a lot better. I can take if you had one. Did you?
Yeah, just with Brock getting hit over the weekend, and then knows what comes back in the lineup today, immediately makes a good play and has a few hits. As he was doing that, what you were sort of thinking to yourself in the dugout just about having him back?
Yeah. What he did the last couple of days really embodies what you want the program to be about, and it's a bunch of kids that love each other and that are too tough to quit. And if there's any way for them to be on the field, they're going to be on the field competing for Indiana and for each other. We have such a great group of kids. If we win or we lose, I show up every day feeling like I'm the luckiest guy in the world because the kids are awesome and they really care. They care about Indiana. And I'm so glad you asked that question. I gave Brock Tibbetts the player of the game after the game. Now, he played well. He started a couple of those rallies. Isn't it funny how baseball is such a silly game where, like, the guy with the broken nose gets the first one-hop line drive? Like, you knew it was going to happen, and he gets a couple plays in the first inning, and he's able to just go in there and compete. Like, he just managed his way through it. The mental strength and the fortitude it takes to break your nose, and the doctor says, hey, you're fine if you want to go play. He's like, shoot, I'm playing, no problem. The first ball, one-hop line drive out, he makes the play. He goes out, has 3 hits and a walk, and just it's easy to talk about toughness. And everybody talks about it. Like, you scroll through Twitter and it's like every 5 seconds you have like top 10 ways to talk about toughness or whatever, right? It's really easy to talk about something. It's much harder, especially today and age, to actually go out there and show it, and to show your teammates, and to have that toughness, and just like a stiff spine to be like, I'm fine. I'm going to go out here and compete for my boys, and then Brock's a great player, and so he is a game-changing player for us. And so if the doctors would have said, hey, you can't play, it'd been fine. It'd been fine. Like, we would have figured it out. Evan Goforth would have gone to first base. I'm sure he'd have played great. But we were able to get him out there, and he didn't bat an eye. He didn't blink, and he played the same tough, competitive, brilliant, and he showed his teammates, like, this is what it looks like, and this is how it's done, and that's true leadership. That's true leadership. Anybody can have, the rallying cry in the locker room. You gotta have a stiff upper lip and go out there and compete, and that's what he did. And you wouldn't expect anything less, but at the same time, showing it and doing it is a tough thing. And he's awesome. He's the best kid in the world.
So it was a broken nose.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that, but I guess so he's fine. He's fine. They gave him clean bill of health, and he's ready to go. Put a C-flap on his mask, and away he goes.
Real quick with Craig, you mentioned you just started pitching a little bit ago. What is it about his spin rate profile that allows him to get so much movement on those pitches?
So it's funny. He threw at Houston a little bit before he transferred in, and I love Craig, but he couldn't hit, and so it was. And I tried, and so it became apparent like that wasn't going to be it. So it was, I think the year was the reduced year. And we tried him. He didn't have an off-speed pitch. I was like, hey, just pitch today. Like, just see what you got. And we swung and missed like 9 times. And that was really before, that was when Coach Parker was here, and he's awesome. Great pitching coach, best friend, like, he's awesome. But we just didn't know as much as we knew about some of the profiles. And then when Coach Glant came in, I said, hey, there's a Craig Yoho. He's coming off his second Tommy John, and then he blows his knee out. And I said, I really think he's got a chance to pitch. And obviously, Coach Glant didn't know him from anybody. And I said, it's weird because he gets a ton of swing and miss on his fastballs against good hitters. And so he pulled up the data, and it was like, so if it's like, 13 and 13 horizontal and vertical action, we call it a dead zone, right? It does exactly what the hitter's eye, the brain thinks it should do. So it runs just enough and it rises just enough to hit your bat. Pretty much like, if it did one or the other, if it lifted or ran more, it would miss your barrel. But it's you can throw it 95. It doesn't matter. If you throw it 95 with a dead zone heater, it's going to get smacked because the human eye can connect with it. So Craig's is like 19 and 19, 18 and 18. So there's like a line of delineation, and it's above my pay grade. It's way above my head. That's what Denton and Coach Glant do. And so he pulled him up, and he was like, yeah, no kidding. Like, this is like a metrically elite fastball. So it runs and it rides. So it goes in and up. And so that's why it's like, if he could learn an off-speed pitch to get him off the fastball, like his fastball got hit hard this fall because he didn't have an off-speed pitch. But as soon as you put another off-speed pitch in a hitter's brain where he has to differentiate between the two, just that enough is enough why he was like 2.5 strikeouts an inning. But he gets all that miss. So it's weird because the first time I saw it was like 18 and 19 or 19 and 19, whatever it was. I was like, oh, so it's a dead zone? And Glenn was like, no, you're crazy. Like this is a unicorn. This is really weird. And we just have to teach him an off-speed pitch, and then he has to learn to manage it and get to his glove side and all those things. So that's when we got him back out this fall, and he started flashing those numbers, and then we put the hammer down, and then you give him to the experts and let him learn how to do those things. But yeah, it was a, you know, the old school isn't always bad. Like my eyes told me his fastball is unique. That's weird. I didn't know why, but when you get, it was like 9 swing and misses in 1 inning, and just a scrimmage, and it was like, okay, keep that in your mind, and then, you know, if we ever get a chance to convince him he's not going to hit and to pitch, then you know, he's got a chance to be really good, and he's been great.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.